Hello, welcome to Lopez Power Lopez review of The Karate Kid Part 3. Now, I've been reviewing for the past 2 weeks or so the Karate Kid movies. So I just did the first one, I've done the second one, and the first one, like I said, is not my all-time favorite movie, but one of my all-time favorite movies. Um, and I think is the best martial arts movie ever from a film point. The second one I thought was a worthy sequel. I liked how it changed. It wasn't like an exact copy of the first movie, but I thought that it did have some weaknesses, but I thought all in all it did have enough stuff for me to really like. I don't think that movie was on the level as the first movie, but I thought it was a very worthy sequel. Now we're on to The Karate Kid Part 3. Oh my gosh, this movie I'm really mixed on. I really don't really like this movie. There are some good things about it. There are some good things. It's not a complete disaster, but yeah, I'll talk about the good stuff. Um, the martial arts choreography is actually pretty good in this movie. The ending fight, uh, not with Daniel, because Daniel's kind of collapsing, but with the bad kid, I think, you could tell he's had some training. And also with Terry Silver, played by Ian Thomas Griffith. The martial arts, you could tell this guy's trained because he does some legitimately good martial arts. Um, the music is nice, and I like a little bit of the philosophy that Mr. Miyagi has about the root inside. If we have a strong root, we can grow whether we are broken or not. That's good philosophy. And of course, the best part about Karate Kid 3 is Terry Silver, played by Ian Thomas Griffith. Oh my goodness, this guy is probably the best Karate Kid villain. I'd say this is the weakest movie in the franchise, by far. But, and I'll get to the negatives, but Thomas Ian Griffith, Terry Silver, played by Thomas Ian Griffith, great villain, great villain. Oh my god, this guy, like I said in the first Karate Kid I reviewed, that John Creasy was like Lex Luthor of the Karate Kid movies. Kind of nuts, but a little more laid back. This guy's the Joker of the Karate Kid movies. This guy is legitimately scary. I mean, what's weird, and also my friend pointed this out, is that the actor who plays Thomas Ian Griffith, who plays Terry Silver, is like a year young. He's like almost a year younger than Daniel. That's just wow. That's weird. Like Daniel, Ralph Macchio, not in the movie. I mean, in the movie, this guy comes across, and I'd say in his early 40s, maybe. But in this movie, if he fought in Vietnam, I'd say he'd be in his early 40s when this movie takes place. But in real life, he's a year younger. I mean, Thomas Ian Griffith was born in 1962. He's as old as my father, whereas Ralph Macchio was born in 1961. Like, wow, that blows my mind. But anyway, I mean, this guy's performance is chilling. It's funny as heck because he's so over the top. I mean, this guy, the character, he's like a millionaire. I don't know if he owns a chain of dojos, but this guy's really well off. I think he also does like some, I don't know what else he does. They says in the movie like he does some other corporate business stuff, but he puts off all of his workings to work on revenge. Revenge. It says it in the movie. This guy is like a comic book hero. He's like Han from Enter the Dragon. He's like really wealthy and really crazy. And he puts off his whole business for a couple weeks to get revenge on Daniel. And if you're wondering what the revenge is, spoilers, is that his friend was John Creasy, who got his knuckles broken from fighting Miyagi in the parking lot in the second movie. Other than that, this guy's like, this guy is training Daniel to kill people. That's how crazy this guy is. And he's very believable. Like, Thomas Ian Griffith has this eyes that just pierce into your soul. And he's a big guy too. He's like 6'5". He towers over. He's a character that towers over people, and he's scary. Okay, this guy is scary. So great performance, and also he's just so over the top. He's over the top. He's over the top in a funny way, I think, kind of unintentionally, but sometimes he's legitimately scary. Memorable performance. By far the best part of Karate Kid Part 3. Memorable performance. Without a doubt. Probably the best Karate Kid villain in the whole series. Now let's get on to the negatives. Now, like I said, I feel sorry for John Avildsen. This was kind of a dark time in his career. He had the Karate Kid 3, which got panned by critics, and which was nominated for Razzies, and he did Rocky 5 the next year, which was also heavily panned. Now, I'm one of those few people, this is like another discussion for a video, but I'm one of the few people that actually enjoys Rocky 5. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, this was such a dark time in his career. I don't know. I haven't looked at him up. I think he's had still a career afterwards. That's why he didn't direct Karate Kid Part 4. Probably because of the reaction he got from Karate Kid Part 3. This guy had a dark time in his career. 89 and 90. Wow, I feel sorry for John Avildsen. Rocky 5 was panned and nominated for... I don't know if that was nominated for Razzies, but Karate Kid Part 3 was. And I kind of see why. First of all, the story's about they're back from Okinawa. Like I said, the guy's gonna help get revenge for his buddy, because his buddy was John Creasy, who Miyagi broke his knuckles in the parking lot. Well, he did, but it was Miyagi who started. Well, he started it. Miyagi who finished it. Anyway, Mr. Miyagi and Daniel are back from Okinawa from the events of the other movie. It's just kind of brushed over. Like, there's a montage in the movie that just plays the events of the first movie, with the exception of the events in the parking lot. And it's just, you could totally skip Karate Kid 2. And really, this movie doesn't really mention the events of Karate Kid 2. You could watch the first movie and skip Part 2 and just watch Part 3. I hate it when sequels do that. That was another reason, that's one of the few reasons about Dark Knight Rises. I love Dark Knight Rises, but it's one of the few, you can just skip, Part 2. I don't know why sequels do that, but this movie is just almost, I'd say 95% ignores the continuity of Karate Kid Part 2. They just brush it off, so it feels like they brush it like, it feels like, in Karate Kid Part 2, the events that we didn't see of Daniel breaking up with his girlfriend, we didn't need to see it. They treat Karate Kid Part 2 like we didn't need to see Karate Kid Part 2, like in that type of dialogue. Anyway, they're back from the events of Karate Kid Part 2, and, yeah, to be fair, well, nothing real. This movie, like, it's the events of the first movie that kind of have something to do with it, but it just ignores a lot of the lessons that were learned in Part 2, and I'll get to that later. But anyway, it's when they're back, the money that Daniel earned in the ice-breaking thing from the second movie, he was going to use that for college, but instead knows that Mr. Miyagi wants to own a bonsai shop and retire off of it, because his old job working in the hotel went out of business. Conveniently, while the mother's moving away, that's convenient. Miyagi's out of the job, so Daniel buys him a bonsai store. First big problem of the movie. The story is boring. I mean, the first movie, he had to learn karate to survive. Befriended the father he never had. Second movie, Okinawa, trying to save Okinawa village. Third movie, opening a bonsai shop and trying to protect the bonsai shop. Really? That's like a sitcom idea. That's like a half an hour sitcom. That's like something, like it sounds like an episode of Drake and Josh. Okay, trying to save the bonsai shop. Really? That is the big conflict of the Karate Kid movies. How exciting. Of this Karate Kid movie. How exciting. A bonsai shop. And of course, if you thought the romance of the at least me, thought the romance of the second Karate Kid was forced and unneeded, the third movie, you could have cut the romance, her character completely out of the movie and it wouldn't change anything. This character, I forget her name, but she's the romance. She owns a shop right across the street from their bonsai store that sells pottery, but her character is so unneeded. It's such a forced relationship, and they don't even end up together at the end. Her old boy, she goes back to her old boyfriend, so I guess they're just friends, but that character didn't really help Daniel in any way. Like, at least in the second movie, she kind of helps Daniel. And Elizabeth Shue, Allie, was a big part of the first Karate Kid movie. She was the Adrian of that movie. And this movie, the romance is nothing. It's unneeded. You could have totally cut it out. The only thing, the rope climbing scene where they're trying to get the tree, that's the only thing she was ever useful. Daniel could have done that. She could have been photoshopped out of the scene and it wouldn't have made a difference. And she just kind of seems in the way. One of the most pointless romances ever in the movie history. Didn't amount to anything. And of course, Terry Silver hires bullies to pick on Daniel, to make it seem like he's the good guy, Terry Silver, like he's protecting Daniel from these guys when really they're working for him. And it's this Karate Kid who no pun intended, who was like the grand champion of the world. And he offers him 50% of his dojos. And that doesn't make sense. Okay, first of all, if this kid is getting sponsors in a magazine, like it shows in the movie, this kid should be pretty well off. Secondly, if you saw that the Cobra Kai dojo went out of business, why would he want 50? How could he save the Cobra Kai dojo? It's not. I always got the impression like the Cobra Kai went out of business because the teacher was abusive, not because they lost the tournament. Did all the other tournaments go out of business when they lost the tournament? That doesn't happen in martial arts. If you get second place in the tournament, that's still really good. Oh my god, that doesn't make a lick of sense. Also, the biggest problem about Karate Kid 3 is the relationship between Miyagi and Daniel is completely cruel, betrayed cruel. And they're for no reason, too. Like, it kind of starts off like, because he wants to defend his title in the tournament. Not Mr. Miyagi, Daniel. Mr. Miyagi doesn't want to do that anymore because there's no point in defending your title. That's not what karate is for to him, defending the trophy. Actually, kind of a good moral. It's more than just a sport. It should be just to help you through life, So the only reason he did in the first movie is to help Daniel. That was the location where he could fight off his students without getting in trouble. But later, when the bullies are picking on him, I don't understand Miyagi's motivation, first of all. Later, when the bullies are picking on him and wanting to fight in the tournament, and it's a matter of life and death to how he fights in the tournament, whether he fights in the tournament or not, and he has to sign the application. Miyagi doesn't train him for that. He's not. Daniel is not doing it for selfish needs. It's only later in the movie when he sees how crazy Terry Silver is that he decides to train him. I mean, oh my gosh. Daniel is getting abused. He almost died because he wasn't going to be in the tournament. And you're not going to train him? You're not going to help him? You're just going to throw him away like a piece of garbage? That contradicts the Miyagi of the first movie by a lot. And he just, he's teaching him the sweeping thing and that's another thing. I mean, didn't Daniel think that the sweeping could have been a way to teach him how to sweep? I mean, sanding the floor helped him block, wax on, helped him block and strike. And even in the movie says, Miyagi makes, little chores like that out of karate lessons, like, making a pot. And then he thinks sweeping the floor is useless? Oh my god, and then, of course, Mr. Miyagi and Daniel fight through most of this movie. Like I said, the only good philosophy in this movie is the tree branch philosophy. But other than that, there's no philosophy in the movie because they hate each other in this movie. Oh my goodness, excuse me, Papa. Anyway, it's just, I don't know. Anyway, they just treat each other so cruel in this movie. I mean, did they forget what they've been through in part 1 and part 2? Miyagi, I know, is supposed to be like but he treats Miyagi, Daniel treats Miyagi like nothing. Even when granted, Miyagi treated him like nothing, and it's kind of understandable why he's kind of mad at Miyagi, but that's just the whole movie, is just Daniel and Miyagi whining to each other. Well, not really Miyagi, but Daniel whining to Miyagi. It's just the once beautiful relationship, compelling relationship in the first movie, and even continued to the second movie, becomes unlikable in the third movie. Oh, and that's I don't know. And of course, the end. Okay, another small nitpick about I have the movie is there's this one scene where Terry Silver's having Daniel fight a man made of boards. It's supposed to represent a body, and it's of like really thick boards. Granted, that would hurt to break, but because there's like really hard, it's like wood fence, it's not like martial art breaking board, it's like normal wood that would be really hard to break. But Daniel is having a hard time breaking this sucker. Okay, I would have no problem about this. And like I said, this movie treats the second one like it didn't really happen. But anyway, in the second movie, if you remember, Daniel breaks 6 logs of ice. That's like superhero strength almost. Batman strength. This thing, big, long of ice. And then in the third movie, he's having trouble breaking a board like this thin. I mean, couldn't he just do and then just breaks the board? Granted, later he does do it out of anger, but in the first place, he's having if he just did that, I think it would be much easier to break something this big than 6 rows of ice. Oh goodness. This movie, I don't know what John Avildsen did. He really messed up in this movie. He really didn't understand the Karate Kid movies, apparently. I mean, it kind of feels like a cash-in. I mean, the first one pretty much stands alone on its own. And I can understand doing a sequel, but really it should, if this is the route they wanted to take, it really should have ended with part 2. Daniel's story, I think, ends in part 2. It really does. Part 2 is the end of Daniel's journey. You know, he saved a village with, he used his karate for just help others and stuff like that. It really should have ended with part 2. And of course, we get to the ending fight, which, through the most part, Daniel, I mean, how he wins is because the other guy keeps getting penalty, and then Daniel finally gets 1 point. In a clever way, I mean, he does a kata, which throws him off. And then, that's the end of the movie. I mean, the martial arts choreography in that fight, except from Daniel's not doing that good, but from the other bad kid, Mike Barnes, is actually really good. So, kudos. And then we get Listen to Your Heart ending credits, which is not a bad song, but it's nothing compared to Boy Love. So, as you can see, I'm very mixed, probably more negative than positive. There are positives. Like I said, if you have to watch this movie, watch it for Thomas Ian Griffith's performance as Terry Silver. That guy kind of deserved his own spin-off. He was so good. But other than that, and there, like I said, the root philosophy, the tree root philosophy, I think is really cool. That's the only part in the movie where the relationship seems interesting. So yeah, I give this movie about a 6 point. I give it about a 5 out of 10. I give it about a D. I give it about a D. I give it about a D, a solid D. I give it about a 2 out of 4 stars. If you love the first Karate Kid movie, if you're a fan of Karate Kid movies, I'd say you'd probably have to watch this to complete the Karate Kid mindset. But for the most part, I wouldn't really recommend. This is kind of a skip. Daniel's story kind of ended with part 2. Then we have the next Karate Kid, which I'll probably talk about also. I admit that one's technically probably worse than Karate Kid 3, but I forgive it more. It's kind of a guilty pleasure in some areas, and I find myself liking that one better than Karate Kid Part 3. So that's my review. Lopez Power Lopez signing out. Take care. God bless. See you next time.